Um, Sorry about the poor Super Week. We still ended with one more win than Cloud9, so we're staying ahead of them. Yeah, that time will be very hard for a lot of teams to use effectively, but it is a lot more important than um, it seems like on the surface level, right? So.
I'm joined with Croissant after an unfortunate defeat to IMT. Croissant, talk to me about that game. It seemed like you guys came in with a very clear game plan, which was not to vie V5 and to sort of pick them apart. And at first, it seemed like it was working, but at some point, that seemed to collapse. What do you think went wrong that game?
We definitely hit a point at the game where we had control and it was a winning game state, but we opted into a few skirmishes and team fights where we weren't actually making use of our like ability to pull them apart on the map, as you pointed out. And even after that, the game was still pretty stable, but leading into that dragon fight where we one-shot Leona and then we were chasing them down, that was a situation where if we took it a bit slower, we definitely were secure. We could have secured 2 kills, and if we secured a third, then we could have secured the Baron off of that, and then that's when we really start getting a huge influx of gold. But as soon as we lost that fight, the game was pretty much unwinnable from that position. So definitely unfortunate and stuff for us to review. But Immortals was honestly across all the different teams, including like FlyQuest, etc. They were the team that played best against us in scrims, and so we didn't come into this disrespecting them. Definitely wanted to come out today with like a strong victory, and it's just competitive. So.
All right, that was actually going to be my next question. Is that you guys dropped games to Shopify and Immortals? Is it? Do you think maybe you guys didn't prepare as well, or you're playing this different composition that maybe you didn't play against, like FlyQuest, for example, when you guys basically dominated them? So it's interesting to say that maybe the league parity, the parity isn't as big between the top and bottom teams. Do you think that's sort of why maybe NRG and I guess now Cloud9 have not been as consistent and as dominant as people expected?
Yeah, I definitely think that like coming into the split, I was on like Hotline League and had been pretty vocal about this, just believing that I understand the direction that every team was taking, and I think pretty much every team had good like roster building philosophies or scouting, and so I think I was expected this to be the most competitive split that we've ever had of like a spring split at least, and we'll see how the rosters develop leading into summer. But I would say that for Cloud9, their losses have been, I think, a bit different than ours because I mean, they slammed Lucian Milio twice, as we saw, and so they're really clearly trying to make that work. For us, we had we weren't going in disrespectfully, but we have been trying to experiment and expand kind of the different options that we have, and so because that's the ultimate goal, right? Like seeding will be important, but like first versus second seed is not like the biggest deal, and going into playoffs is just important to have depth, and so it's important for us to see how this new group of 5 players can navigate not just like the game and the map, but also when they're put in certain compositions, like our tendencies and our habits will show. And so we've just been working on that. And so I think us and C9 have both been challenged because other teams have clear identities and clear like approaches to the game. But I think we've suffered losses for different reasons for sure. So.
All right, thank you for that detailed like sort of explanation. I guess my follow-up question to that is when I look at the LPL, for example, last year, or even like 2021 with EDG, different LPL teams have very specialized strategies and they all play in very specific ways. They might be different, but they all have like their own sort of meta that they follow. And you talk about, you know, diversifying and being and having all these different options. Doesn't that feel like you might be spreading yourself too thin so that when it comes time to play internationally or play in these finals, you're not practiced enough on the one thing. You're not good enough on one thing because you've spent all this time practicing a lot of things.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think there's always a balance, right? There's a balance to each individual composition. There's a balance to each week of practice and like the 6 weeks of LCS that you have. And so I think for us, we're working towards that. And um, but there is always a phase of experimentation that good teams will go through, uh, whether it's T1 or even JDG, right? Like they find different ways to get to the same answer, and they find ways to expand their pools on like 369, et cetera, last year. And for us, we started 3.6 last year, and a lot of that was because, we didn't feel the need to instantly lock into a certain style, and by the end of the split, we had 2 to 3 styles that we were really confident with, and we felt like we could deal with rock, paper, scissors situations. And currently, we are not going to. We're not trying to play like 5 or 6 different styles. We're just we're sorting it out. And so yeah, but I do think it's definitely important for us not to get um, overly experimental. And so I think we've generally tried to avoid that.
All right, and it seems like this split doesn't actually help you very much. The fact that it's a shorter split. I guess there is a 3 week break. I guess 2 weekends, but 3 week break in the middle. What is the team planning on doing? Is there like, are you guys going to take like a short break and then just go through every weekend and practice, or what do you guys have planned for that?
Yeah, most teams, or pretty much every team, is going to be taking a short break, and then just going right back into practice for 2 weeks before leading into the last 2 weeks of the split. Um, and we're going to have like a team dinner. We're going to do some team bonding activities too. But yeah, it's just important to make sure that the momentum is going to be interesting. It's like it's not even in the middle of the split, right? It's like towards once we've already had 9 out of 14 games played, and so uh, yeah, that time will be very hard for a lot of teams to use effectively, but it is a lot more important than um, it seems like on the surface level, right? So
All right, and the other change that happened besides the shorter split is live patch. And as you guys come back from that break, there'll be like a whole new patch, and like it seems like I think I was talking to ThinkCard, and he told me that NRG had very successfully used data on different champions and around the globe to find what works for you guys. But now that that's not really available, it seems like it's putting a lot of pressure and a lot of uncertainty in what is good. So how have you guys adapted to that?
I think there are always different data points that you can use to ascertain what's good, and we've just shifted our um, prioritization of uh, that data to more like testing in scrims and more even like discussions between players and between coaching staff, and like even 2v2s and 1v1s. Like there's a lot of different resources that you need to prioritize and you need to shift towards when you have this format shift. But ultimately the format shift will be like equalized when we do hit playoffs period. So like we have 7 more games, and most of those games we're going to be first on the patch. But as we see LEC playoffs and LCK towards the end of the split and towards like middle end of March, it will be then again you'll have more data to look at and you'll be able to prioritize it. So it's just about like working with what you have and adjust. And we've been doing our best to do that, and also make sure that we stay open to um, the ideas of each other and also of our peers and the other teams in the league. So,
All right. Thank you so much for those answers. And is there anything you would like to say to the fans?
um, sorry about the poor Super Week. We still ended with one more win than Cloud9, so we're staying ahead of them. So, or yeah, we are ahead of them, and uh, we're going to just keep on doing everything we can to make sure that we can finish the split strong and represent North America well. So appreciate the support.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was one of the coolest interviews I've ever done, just because every question or every answer that he gave was answering another question that I had down the pipeline. All my questions were answered to the point that I was just like kind of feeding off of what he said, which is cool and all. I mean, I don't mind it. I generally, genuinely just ask things I'm curious about, and that's why a lot of times you're like, oh, you're not like mincing your words, because I just wanted to know. It wasn't like I'm not sourcing my questions from anywhere. So thank you for watching that, and hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, you know what to do, or else I'll be mad. So just hit that subscribe button.